Welcome everybody to the Kinesio Outdoors podcast, where my goal is to educate you on how to enjoy life outdoors, inspire you to enjoy life outdoors, and encourage you to just get out there and try something new. Today on the podcast, I've got Aidan again, and we're going to be recapping my 2024 Archery Elk season. It is actually before the final weekend, but school starts for me. It actually started today. So I don't think I'm going to be able to go out. My PhD dissertation proposal is a little more important than elk hunting right now, and I hate to say that. And Aidan, feel free to tease me, but it is. It's one elk season, and this proposal is a really big deal for the rest of my life. So that's kind of where
Yeah,
we're at. Thanks, Aidan, for jumping on. How you doing today?
absolutely. Doing well, soaking up the first real rain of this fall. It's got me
Man,
thinking about hunting.
I got drenched. We can talk about this in a bit, but I got drenched hunting 2 weekends ago, like soaked. I had extra
Hmm.
everything, boots, socks, underwear, and I changed everything. It was nuts. I'll have to
Sound like
send
a
you a video.
California boy.
It was rough. But yeah, and then at school today, I got pretty wet. I had to change my underwear. That's how you know it rained hard, when you
Whoa.
change your underwear. And I was wearing shorts and like my Grundon rain jacket. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I still had to change my underwear, and it's not because I peed, and it's because the rain the rain got them wet. Yeah,
That's
but
funny.
that's kind of the way it goes here sometimes. The weather can be pretty unpredictable, so
Yeah,
it's the way it is.
unpredictable. Yeah, exactly. This time of year it is. Usually you just predict rain and you're right most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. What do they say in Coeur d'Alene? They're like, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. They do
We're
say that.
getting there.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks here and we'll be there.
I know. I don't like being wet, but I look forward to it just because of how it feels and it means that hunting season's coming. So,
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't
well, it
like
is here. I
guys.
just missed out on September.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I'm still trying to convince you to get that rifle elk tag. I think I'm gonna be able to convince you, man. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it.
Well,
After talking about this with you, I think you're gonna get that itch in your gut of like, I need to get going.
I do have the itch. I just don't want to do anything irresponsible.
That's
I
fair.
not that I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I get it. Same with me. Like I could go hunting this weekend. And then I could fail my proposal. So that would be cool too.
Exactly. Right. Right.
All right. Well,
Depends how
let's
big
dig
the
in.
antlers are. I think, Stefan.
Well, I'll have
I'm
to
just
send
kidding.
you a video. It's not very good, but let's just say this video has, or this story of my season has multiple bulls. The biggest being a really big frame 4x4. So
All right.
we'll kind
Yeah.
of start with that. Yeah. So,
Let's hear it.
yeah, let's get started. Opening weekend, I think was August 30th. Is that whatever that Saturday is,
Hmm.
before Labor Day? That was
Yeah.
opening day. It was, gosh, I think it was like 90 degrees. It was super hot that weekend. And the moon was kind of goofy. I was talking to my hunting buddy Jason, and then my other buddy Gunner, who owns Ghost Bull Hunting Gear out of Astoria, and both of those guys were like, I just don't know if the elk are going to be doing much moving and rutting because it's going to be so hot. So that combined with the fact that Bridget's truck was in the shop for 8 days with an airbag recall, I owed Bridget a trip to Mount Rainier National Park. So I took the girls to Mount Rainier National Park opening weekend, which I felt kind of sacrilegious doing that, man. It was cool. It was a good time. We did see some elk, but
Did you wish you didn't?
did I wish I didn't? I don't know. I was torn because there was like 14 cows, which is a big herd for Rosie's, right? That's a really big herd.
I would say that's a big hurt unless you're talking about like a ranch field.
Yeah,
That's,
and this
you know,
was, I don't know, 5 acre field along the highway. So it was a
yeah,
big,
I would say that's a
and
big hurt. Yeah.
yeah, that was kind of my thought. So we watched them for a little bit, and that just got me thinking, man, I wish I was elk hunting, but took them to Mount Rainier. I missed opening weekend, and school started for Bridget on Wednesday. So because school started for Bridget, she was not able to take care of Cassie because daycare opens at 7:30 and Bridget has to be 20 minutes away from daycare at 7:20. So there's no way Bridget could take Cassie to daycare.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna complain, so buckle up. My mom at Christmas, I said, Mom, I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna buy you a plane ticket. I'm flying you to Oregon for the first 2 weeks of archery elk season. I'm going hunting. And she was like, Hold on. So you're gonna fly me up. I'm gonna play with Cassie all day and do whatever I want. You're not even gonna be there to tell me what to do. And I was like, Yes. She's like,
She knows how to raise kids.
Dude, she's like, Done. I'll be there.
I guess she's never raised a girl though, to be fair.
She hasn't raised a girl, but I mean, when they're this little, are they really like a girl or a boy? You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
human or not human.
Right.
So Cassie's a human. She falls into the human category. So, anyways, my mom's like set. We're all excited. Well, my brother, the middle one, he got married in January, and his now wife is a little older. So they decided to try to get pregnant pretty quick. So that way they could have a kid together before she turned like 37. That was kind of their big thing. I think she's 35. I think she's now 36. So lucky for them, they got pregnant pretty quickly. That's a blessing. And the due date is 1 week from today. So when my brother,
Boy.
who's in the army, was told that he was going to have to be, I don't know the technical term, but basically he had to go to like some training where he was off grid, unable to help at home for 3 weeks.
Ooh.
So my mom changed her plans, went to Colorado to help them out, and I did not get to have my mom for 14 days of hunting season like I was supposed to.
Yeah.
So this is my PSA slash complaint to everybody. Don't have kids during hunting season. Like the
Yeah.
animals are rutting. Maybe we should not be popping babies out. So that way
Yeah.
guys and gals who want to go hunting can go hunting and not feel bad and not be guilted.
I have something to add to that.
Yeah, go
Two
for it.
two quick things. One is I just got engaged. Do not get married during hunting season.
Yep, there it is. You can
That'll
get
be in the
engaged during hunting
springtime.
season. That's
You
fair.
can you definitely can because you
Yep.
don't have to celebrate that for the rest of your life. And the other thing is just rut when the animal you like to hunt ruts. You'll be
That's
all
what I'm
set.
saying.
I mean, maybe you'll miss out on a couple turkey hunts, whatever.
Yeah, you might miss a
That's
spring
not that
bear.
big a deal. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm totally with you. And this is why you're here on this podcast right now because great minds, man. So yeah, anyways, my hunting season is limited to weekends and I get a day and a half. So what I was doing is Friday, I would take Cassie to daycare. I'd clean up, I'd pre-cook meals for Bridget because Cassie likes a lot of attention. And then Friday around noon, I would drive to hunting unit blank, GPS coordinates blank, and I'd go hunting. So I would do Friday night, all day Saturday, and then one time I stayed overnight Saturday night, and then Sunday I came home in the afternoon, and that was just a little bit long for Bridget. So what I ended up doing was Friday night, all day Saturday, and then I'd be home Saturday by midnight, and that's what I did. So my
Nice.
first day of hunting was Friday, September 6th, and I'll just be referring to some notes I sent to my dad. So September 6th, I had an idea of I was going to hunt old growth timber. And Aidan, you know, old growth by definition is like trees older than 20 years or something like that. It's not like fancy, right?
There's a lot of different
Okay.
definitions. There's
Yeah,
a
go
lot of
for it.
different definitions. I mean, I'm not a total expert. There's typically old growth can be referred to as it can be as recent as having already been clear cut 3 times or 4 times. And
That's
it's
crazy.
old enough that there's no longer sun hitting the floor and the forest floor, and it's mostly understory veg like maples and ferns and stuff. And then there's like true old growth, which would be like the sequoias, like
Yeah.
places that haven't been logged by the white man is like the original old growth, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so this was definitely the first definition, not the second.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I did is there's this road and they call them like main lines or whatever. I don't know. It's a logging
Yeah,
road.
that's
Logging trucks can drive them. So I walked in probably like a mile and a half, a mile and three quarters to get the wind right. And I went down through this old growth to this creek bottom, walked to the creek bottom under. downhill from a clear cut. And creek bottoms, for those of you that aren't familiar with logging country, they don't get logged. Loggers, it's really hard to get equipment down there during the rainy season because there's a lot of moisture from the creek, and then also just like it's usually downhill. So a lot of moisture accumulates there as well. So creek bottoms are usually untouched by logging. So that kind of technically is older growth stuff. It's not really logged. So
Mhm.
I got the win right, walked through this old growth, and I think it took me like an hour and a half to walk a mile. I mean, I was moving pretty slow,
So
taking it.
it was a morning time. The thermals must have been coming up in your face, and you're just hiking down in the morning.
It was
Or
afternoon. Yeah, thanks for interjecting. It was afternoon, but I was so close to the ocean. I just had that dominant ocean breeze.
sure.
And I actually had a crosswind across the hillside. So anything downhill from me, I had a 90-degree wind. So that's just the way it
Nice.
worked out. Yeah, it was sweet. Saw a lot of trails, but they were trails that didn't have fresh sign. So I wonder if those are like summer trails, maybe like
Hmm.
a late spring trail, because I did see some droppings, but nothing fresh, nothing that got me excited. So that's the way it was. No big deal. Get to the creek bottom, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. Opens up, nice, beautiful canopy on top. Green, what are those clovers called? The ones that taste like green apple?
Miner's lettuce.
Yep. Had some of those. There was also some skunk cabbage. Beautiful creek, so I stopped there. I felt like I was moving a little quick at the end, so I made a quick dehydrated meal and just took some time to relax. I get up and I was gonna move down the creek and then walk up through the thinnest part of the clear cut uphill. And I was just gonna glass that night, see if anything popped out. Because on the other side of this creek, there was another logging road, and then uphill from that was a dog hair thick reprod, like 10 to 15-year-old.
Hmm.
So I was thinking maybe there's elk bedded in that. They come down, water at the creek, come up to this clear cut, feed, go down through the creek, water, and then back up in bed first thing in the morning. That's kind of what I was thinking. And worked my way up the clear cut, find this pretty good little glassing knob, and I'm just in this. I think it was clear cut like a year before, so not fun to walk through, but you could see pretty darn good. And
Yeah.
I'm looking through this one patch where I'm like, the elk are gonna come out right here. Like this is where they're gonna come out. And I heard super loud noises, and I was like, okay, deer are not that loud. So I went around this brush pile or the slash pile with some tarps on it,
Mhm.
and boom, eyes
It's
on an
probably
elk.
this year then. Oh,
What's that?
I was just gonna nothing. I was just gonna say that clear cup is from this year then if there's tarps on it.
Okay,
So
yeah, it might
that's
have been.
super fresh. That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, it very well could have been. And pop my head around, there's an elk. So I'm like, sweet, looking through the binoculars, and then out pops a second out. So now there's two spikes and they're feeding up. And they're kind of across a little gully of topography, if you will. And this is something that Aidan, you know, but topography lines are wrong in a lot of Oregon because the trees are so dang thick, they can't get a satellite imagery of the ground. So you actually
Exactly.
see there's all this topography. As soon as you log, like you're like, wow, animals could walk down here. I would never see them. They could just go up and over this little bump and you would never see them. It's just amazing. So these elk were across this little blip. I think if they would have fed on into that little gully, the farthest shot would have been 80 yards, which I practiced to over 100 yards. So 80 yards to me, I'm really comfortable with that distance. So as I'm moving around, I get set. I think the wind swirled a bit and the two spikes kind of nose up. They didn't bust, but they didn't like what they were sensing. So they kind of fed towards that old growth that I had walked down at the top of this clear cut. And that's just the way that went. So, oh well, not a big deal. But I don't think any other elk were coming out. And that's just the way that was. So, about 10 minutes before the end of light, I just decided to get out of there. And I'm walking out this road, and there are different ages of cuts and reproduction growth as I'm walking the road. And I'm in the middle of the road because this is a pro tip, and Aiden, I'm sure you know this, but in logged roads, they put gravel down and like big chunks of rocks for gravel. So logging trucks can have like something, some tread to move on. Well, that's really loud to walk on. But in the middle where the tires aren't moving, grass grows. And on the sides of the road, grass grows. you want to walk through that grass because it's like infinitely quieter. Am I right? I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm walking in the middle of the road. I've got my backpack on, my bow's on my backpack because it's almost dark, 10 minutes of shooting light left. And I'm just walking out, just kind of eyes open. And 100 and let's see, I think it was 180 yards away. I'm like, that looks like an elk. Boom, pop out the binoculars. Sure enough, cow and a yearling. So I'm like, okay, sweet. Those are elk. But I'm so far away, they don't know what's going on. So, and I'll kind of give a product highlight here. The AKEC pack, I'll have to show you this, Aiden, has a quick release system. So I didn't have to take my pack off. I just grabbed the cam of the bow, leaned it forward, popped the strap off, and then I just pulled the bow over my shoulder, and now I've got my bow in my hand.
That's pretty
So I'm
slick.
just walking straight line right at these elk because they obviously knew something was off, but they didn't bust at all. They weren't really spooked. Once I got to 100 yards, I was like, oh shoot, this is like this is serious. So I knocked an arrow, and then I see a third elk cross from my left, crosses the road to the right. So kind of in front of me, there's a fork there. And when this one crosses, I'm like, oh, super cool. So now it's two cows and that yearling. Now I'm like 87 yards away, and they're just standing there. So I just keep moving forward. Wind's in my face, 2, 3 mile an hour wind. I'm moving almost silently, and they just don't know what's going on. Finally, I think I was like 74 yards away. They don't like what's going on. They don't bust, but they just kind of move off uphill. And they're still in the open. I can still see them. So now I've got like 5 minutes of shooting light. And I kind of come to this fork and start turning left. And I see a small spike, like an 8-inch spike, and then a cow. So I'm like, okay, cool. There's more elk in this group than I even realized. And I kind of thought there were because those first three would look back every once in a while, which that's like a telltale sign, right? Animals don't know they're doing this, but they're just like putting their buddies on the firing line by just looking back.
Turkeys are the worst at that. Turkeys give away girl turkeys give away their boyfriends, like, give them up for dead over and over throughout the season.
So that's another little tip for anybody that if you see an animal that keeps looking back where it came from, there's probably more with it.
Or another, hunter.
Or another hunter. Yeah, that's fair. So I range this spike where it came out. I'm like 62 yards. Perfect. Or 60 yards, 60 yards. And then I hear these 5 foot tall Christmas trees rustling. So I'm like, all right, there's an elk. Draw back. Out steps this bull. I'm like, sweet. Boom, I'm on it. Put my 60-yard pin mid body right behind the shoulder. I'm like, oh, I should probably check to see if it has brow tines. Because where I was at, you have to have 3 points or better. It was a really long spike, probably like, I don't know, 16-inch long spikes, but no dice. So I let down as slowly as I could. I'm sure it wasn't perfect. And dude just kind of just moved through the road, kept going. Then the tree rustles again. I've got like 2 minutes left. Tree rustles
Oh,
again. I'm like, all right, draw back again. So I'm like, and for those of you that don't know, usually the more mature bulls are at the back of the group, right, Aiden?
yeah,
So I'm
agreed.
like, this is a bigger spike than this other spike in cow. I'm like, this is the legal bull. This is it. I'm ready. Nope, another cow. And that was the last one. So again, I let down. She went through, and I actually ranged her after I let down. She was 62 yards. So if that spike would have been a year older, had 3 points, man, that might have been a heart shot bull. First
Oh,
3 hours of hunting. It was pretty
dude.
cool.
That's a cool, I mean, maybe it's hard to say. Maybe you saw the spikes because other people hadn't passed them, but also it's like a huge confidence booster to on the first day already be getting into bulls. Like if you're in a different area or a different state, you would have had blood.
Yeah, exactly. And I took it the way that you just said. So if you remember, Aiden, we've been talking about elk hunting for the past 2 seasons. That is the first time I was within bow range of an elk
Hmm.
in Oregon. So this is my
Yeah.
third season. First 2 seasons, I was never within bow range of an elk. Actually I was within 40 yards of a spike last year, but it was brush. I didn't even see it. So first time I legitimately had an opportunity at any elk, regardless of if I like had a tag that was good for that elk or not. I just never had that opportunity. So yeah, like you said, I'm pumped. I'm like, wow, this
Should
spot's
be.
cool. I'm hunting pretty well. I'm understanding how they're moving through this terrain. Like this is awesome. So that's the first night.
Yeah.
Then let's see, move on with my notes.
Well, it's not like big bulls and small bulls and cows hang out in different areas because the big bulls are the primary breeders. So if you find, especially in September, if you find cows and spikes, which is, they're always together,
Yeah.
eventually you hang out with with that group long enough and they're going to get bred by a bigger bull. So,
Yep, exactly. A bigger bull will come in, breed the cows, and then leave.
mhm.
It's just a matter of are you catching the bigger bull when he's with those cows or not, right? That's a lot of what it comes down to in
Yeah.
September. At least if you're hunting cows.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great explanation. So next day I'm like, all right, cool. I kind of know what's going on here, but I saw 4 spikes in one night. To me, that's huge. It was like 8 or 9 elk the first night. So I'm pumped. That's the most elk I've seen in any hunting season beforehand, and I did it the first night. So next day I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go to a slightly different area. Um, it's just my friend Gunner just giving me ideas on where to go. He's had been to that area before. So the next day, Aiden, I didn't tell you this. I put in 21.6 miles
In a day,
in a day.
were you running?
No.
I'm just kidding.
But when it was not good action, I was just moving. I did the whole day, didn't see anything, met up with Gunner. He
Jeez.
gave me some ideas, and I just kind of didn't know what to do. Well, I had found some sign. Actually, let me back up. So, Saturday morning, I'm at the gate, and one guy got there before me. So, for me, hunter etiquette's like he was there first. I'm gonna ask him where he's going. I'm not gonna bump him because he was there first. That's just me kind of like being nice. I don't have to do that, but I also don't need somebody getting upset because I'm taking their spot, right?
Yeah, it's
So
an
I go over.
unspoken rule.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's just etiquette. So I
Yeah.
go over and his 2 buddies pull up after. I'm like, hey guys, one of you was here first. I'm gonna act like all of you guys were here first. Where are you hunting so I don't go there and bump your elk? I was like very clear with that language. And 2 guys don't say a word. And then one guy's like, oh, I'm going left, I'm going over here. Um, so I'm like, sweet, I'm not going anywhere near there. Cool. Well, these other guys didn't say a word. They went right by where I was gonna go. So I was like, all right, you're not gonna talk to me. I'm gonna go wherever I want because I tried to be polite and ask. Well, I outwalked them because they're slow and they're walking in the dark. They had these bright headlamps on, even though the moon was out. It's like, what are you guys doing?
And
So
so
they're like,
is this the backside of where you got into those spikes, or why are you here?
it is, um, it's like 2 miles away, but it's just like another basin system. It's another creek basin system.
So you were not planning on running into the same group. You were just checking out a new spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there wasn't a mature bull with those cows, just the spikes,
Yeah.
and they weren't even calling at all. I was just thinking, let's just try to find some new elk.
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
idea.
So next morning, nothing. Met up with Gunner, put some miles in, saw nothing. Found where some elk had been killed in the past, just going through old growth. I would get the wind right, find old growth that had water in or near it, near a clear cut and near some dog hair thick reprod, and I would just still hunt through that timber and then go to a new spot. And that's how I was getting the 20 plus miles is that's not everywhere, right? So you got to
No.
find where it is. And then one time I had to go around 3 miles around the mountain to get the wind right to then hunt through it. Nuts, right? So that night I'm like, well, I saw some tracks, smelled some fresh elk scent in the morning at this spot. I'm gonna come back at night. I think they're coming out at night. I think they were there at night. So I'm walking through and I'm trying to get past where they were because the wind's coming off the ocean. So then I'm gonna hunt back towards the ocean with the wind in my face and hope they feed out of this reprod uphill and then down across the road into this clear cut from, that year, the year before. I'm walking to try to get the wind right. There's like a 1 or 2 year old cow just busts me at 30 yards. So I was like, well, that's a bummer. But it sounded like she was by herself, so I wasn't too worried about it. So I jam past, wait for things to settle. I actually text my dad. I was like, is 20 minutes long enough for an elk to kind of settle when you just bumped her real quick? And my dad was like, well, dark's in 30, so I guess it's got to be long enough. So I start just creeping along the road as slow as I can. And I hear something in the road, and it's very distinct if you hear something in the road, like walking, whatever, because it's gravel, it's unnatural. It's not like the wind blowing something. So I'm like, oh man, that's loud. There's got to be a few elk in the road, and my heart's pumping. Turn the corner, two people with fat tire bikes riding right through. So I was like, well, this hunt's over. Put the
Not
bow on
hunt.
track, double checkers, and I just get out of there.
Were they
That
not
hunt was blown
hunters?
up. They were non-hunters, no.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Just enjoying outdoors, which that's cool. But just if you go through my elk spot, I'm gonna be a little bitter about it. That's just all there is to it.
Sure.
So next morning, Sunday morning, let's see. Yeah, Sunday morning, nothing, no big deal. That's kind of the way it goes. So now it's a week later on Friday. I did the same routine, took Cassie to daycare, cleaned the apartment, made Bridget some meals, and then I left. And now I actually went to the same side that I saw those elk the previous week. And another reason I went there, I forgot to mention this, is 2 weeks before the opener, I actually saw a 5x5 bull that was pretty decent on
Oh,
this ridge line uphill from this old growth and the creek and all this stuff that I was hunting. And he had been working that ridge line. I found a few of his rubs. So I was thinking, okay, he's there. I know there's cows here. It's a week later. Maybe he's moved down to where the cows are.
so what is
So
this, like the seventh or something, or the
this is the
sixth?
13th because the 6th, remember, I
Oh,
missed
oh,
opening weekend.
you missed opener. That's
Yeah.
right.
So the
Oh,
6th
right
is
on.
Friday. The 13th is actually the third. It's the beginning of the third weekend, right? The
Yeah,
14th
yeah.
is Saturday. So,
Sweet.
yeah. Let's see. Okay, cool. So,
Hot
I,
weekend again, I think. I think that
what's
was
that?
hot. I think it was hot that weekend.
It was hot like every weekend, man.
Yeah.
Honestly. But yeah, it was pretty warm. It was pretty dry. So, again, I'm walking past everything to get the wind right to then move back with the wind in my face as I kind of hunt my way out. That's just the way the wind worked. And as I was walking, there's this elk really close to coming out on this road, right below where this 5x5 bull was. And it was in the trees. I never saw it, but it just kind of stopped and moved up a little bit. And I was like, man, that might be that bull. So I just, as quietly as I could, went past it, got the wind right, waited as long as I could, and I started coming back. And that elk never showed up again. So, oh well, I bumped it. Honestly, it's just timing, right? And it was coming out of reproduction growth, 10, 15-year-old trees. You can't see them. They could be there, they could not be there. You never know unless you bump them or they walk out. It's just
Dude, even if you did get within, you could be within 10 feet of him and not have a shot. I don't know how you're going to draw your bow on 8 foot spacing when the limbs are five
exactly.
feet long, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
I don't know the company you were hunting in, but usually it'd be like 8 or 9 or 10 foot spacing. And at that age, the limbs are that long. So,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So, and you'll notice the theme for me finding elk was I actually saw most elk transitioning from this thick stuff, crossing the road to younger growth or a fresh clear cut. And that's just where I find most of the elk. And we can talk about that at the end of like what we think is happening, but
bed to
that's what's
feed.
happening. We'll better feed, but also like the old growth is huntable, right? People hunt it. People walk through it, but people do not walk through reprod. It's very rare. A lot of people walk through old growth because you can walk, right? You can see, you can walk. So I kind of think part of it was that reprod is just less people, less pressure.
Yep.
So, anyways, walk past. So now I'm turned around, walking back to the car, walk past where that one was. It never came out again. So, oh well, not a big deal. Keep going, and I hear another elk, and I'm like, sweet. So I get ready, arrow knocked, and before I could even get ready to draw, this elk's on top of me, like 5, 7 yards away. It's a cow. She walks out, sees me in the road. It's 10 minutes till dark, makes a loop in the road further away, and then dives back downhill into this reprod, never to be seen again. But I hear more elk. So I'm like, I wonder if I can trick these other elk. So I just calf call, just real light. Dude,
We're
this cow
using a
fired off
diaphragm.
immediately. Yeah, diaphragm call.
Nice.
So this cow that was not the one that saw me starts piping off immediately. And the way it was moving, I couldn't tell if it was one or two. So I'm like, sweet, if it's just like a 3 point bull, he might just be right on this cow's heels if I can get her to come out. So on the road, it knows something's there. Hold on, Bridget just texted me. I gotta reply real quick. Sorry.
All good. No, no problem. No problemo.
Cassie's being a little difficult for her. So bless Bridget's heart for doing this for me so I can chat about hunting with you. So, anyways, um, cow call, lightly calf call. I'm walking because something's there, and I get this cow to pop out. I could see like the base of its neck, maybe like the front of its shoulder forward. It's a young cow and wouldn't have had a shot that I would like to take with a bow. Anyways, it doesn't like what it sees. It moves off. I think it was just those two cows, which sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's just smaller herds of cows. It's just kind of the way it goes. That's right before dark. I just jam out of there. On the way out, I'm almost out. There's these two guys on bikes flying by me. They stop. They're like, "Hey, we ran into elk right up here last night in the dark. We're gonna go slow and just see if we don't bump them again." We don't see the elk. One of the guys rips a bugle. He's like, "Right down there. We just heard the bugle. That's where I would hunt if I was you. I don't want to hunt down there. It's too thick." So Saturday morning, that's where I go and not productive at all. Didn't see a dang thing.
Did
Went
you
way
bugle at
around
all?
my win right. I didn't because the elk were not making any noises during the day. So I'm
Did you
always
make
hesitant
any
to do
cow
that.
sounds like before you went down there?
Yeah, I just lightly calf and cow call as I move through some timber, in hopes because like cows will respond, right? They're almost like turkeys where like if they hear it, like you mew, they mew.
Yeah,
Kind of like a shot gobble, right?
for sure.
Bulls aren't quite like that. Unless they're fired up, then it's like almost you could almost do like a car door, like a rooster sound, and they'll just bugle, it seems like. So, anyways, that morning, unproductive. Let me check my notes here. But now I had again, second weekend trip. I had seen elk again. So I'm still pretty fired up. Way better than I had done in years past. In years past, I had seen two elk my previous year, last year hunting season, one spike and one cow. The year before, I saw one cow driving during hunting season in like a huntable area. Like I just have terrible luck in Oregon. So things are looking pretty darn good at this point.
Most people do.
Most people do what?
Well, on most people do in the area that you were in.
Most people don't see elk.
Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, par for the course, people not seeing elk, right?
Yeah, well, it's
So,
like 92% of people don't get one, so you can only assume that they don't see that many.
yeah, exactly. So here we are Saturday night. I'm in the same clear cut where I saw the two spikes the week before. Because again, I'm thinking, maybe these elk, maybe the bulls are coming in. I think those cows live here. I smelled the elk sign. I heard the bull. These two guys spooked a group of elk Thursday night. Friday night, they were in there, but after I was there, because Saturday morning their tracks were there. So I'm like, they might come out and do something. So I'm sitting in this spot, which is coincidentally where I saw the two spikes feed out into the clear cut, and a lone spike fed out in the middle of this clear cut. There was a few cows downhill from this spike, and then I heard a hunter in the creek. And then he did some absolutely terrible cow calls. So the spike and the cows took off. And that was the end of Saturday, September 14th. So that was that.
Don't you love that?
Yeah, love it. So last Friday, let's see, did I go last Friday? Yeah, last Friday I had a work meeting because I was on contract September 15th. So I actually didn't leave until, gosh, probably 1 o'clock. Got up there around 4, and I had an idea of where I wanted to go, but really not much. I hadn't really been seeing a whole lot of cows, which I wanted to hunt cows because the bulls were going to the cows. Friday night, didn't see an elk, and I was just having a miserable time. My plan was I got permission on this private piece, which borders this timber company, which borders another private piece where I know elk live in there. And my buddy Gunner, his cousin owns a place. He's like, the biggest bull I've ever seen lives there. I know he lives there. I've gotten his sheds from there. I've seen him there all times of the year. He lives there. So I was like, sweet. So I like try to tiptoe on the edge of this clear cut, which borders this neighboring property that I don't have permission on, with thick enough timber where it's not old growth because you can't walk it yet, but it's tall trees with a nasty underbrush and it's trash, man. It took me like
Maple
45
and
minutes to move 300 yards down this like downhill. I mean, it was awful. I had my machete out, cutting trails through blackberries and stuff. Terrible. I had
I
a
was gonna
terrible time.
say, there's no way to quietly move through that.
No, not a chance. So
No.
move through that and get to this property I had permission on, and it's gorgeous. There's trails that have been there for years and years and years. They're like 4 foot wide paths, but no fresh sign. So Gunner's like, look, not a lot of elk live there full time, but this bull lives there. He likes that spot. Just because you're not seeing fresh sign doesn't mean they're not there. So I'm moving through lightly cow calling, 30 minutes before sunset. I stop at this creek, and in old growth where the bottom you can walk, it's dark. So sunset's like game over. It's getting dark. I'm at this creek. I'm looking at tracks. I'm being quiet and see what I kind of think's fresh tracks, not really. Cross this creek, and every time I hit step on a stick, which if you're on moss, you can't see sticks all the time, right? I do a cow call.
Oh,
So I
nice.
step on the stick, it's a pop, and then I cow call. Well, this elk gets up and starts moving. So I'm like, oh, sweet. So I spend 15 minutes there cow calling, nothing. So I bumped it, and I don't know what it was. My guess is it was a bull because cows respond and bulls don't always respond. So that's just my guess. One lone elk, usually it's going to be a more mature bull. There can be cows that are alone, there can be spikes that are alone, but just my experience, it's just usually a little bit older bull.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm like,
Hey,
all
real
right,
quick,
yeah.
if you don't mind, you want to talk about those sheds that he found and talk about that big bull, or are you holding out on us?
Oh, I've seen like pictures of the sheds, but for those watching, Gunner has one of these at his Ghost Bowl booth. If you ever go to like a hunting show and he's there, the base is, dude, it's like almost like half my face. It's nuts. It's a 7x7 bull crowned out on top.
Like a red
Rosie's not
stag.
long with main beams, but he's just heavy and massive. It's cool.
Well, as you should be. I mean,
Yeah,
that's how they're
exactly.
made.
Yeah.
Is that what the name of the company is based on? Because he
Yep.
never saw it again or something?
He's seen it. He's seen that one a few times here and then, but
Okay.
it's because like Rosie's, they can just be ghosts so easy, and you don't see them for months or ever again, like you just said. Yeah, so this is last Friday night. I step out or work my way up, then I go through this clear cut in a narrow spot where there's a road. And this clear cut that I'm talking about now, I saw a spike bear hunting with Gunner a month before this. So I'm like, there's elk here. And there was a 6x7 bull that was just up and over the top of this ridge on the other side. So like there's elk here. Well, walk out, nothing, and I'm just pretty bummed. I actually called Bridget. I guess she's having a little bit of a hard time with Cassie, and I was like, "Look, honestly, I might just come home tonight. Like, hunting's not very good. You seem to be having a hard time. Maybe this is what I should do." And she's like, "You're already there. It's 3 hours to drive back home. I think you should stay." So, like, applause to Bridget because I was ready to be like, I just need to be a husband, not a hunter. And she's like, "You should stay."
What's the
So
difference?
that's what I'm saying. When it comes to fall, is there a difference? So I go to my camp spot, which is 10 miles away. I'm like a mile from the ocean at this point, but 10 miles driving away. And all night it's a full moon, and I heard 2 to 3 bugles. I can't remember. So I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. It's 45 degrees in the morning, very light wind. I'm like, this is cool. I get to this gate where I was the night before because I'm like, I don't have a play, but I like this spot. And walk in the gate, and there's these guys at the gate just goofing around. And it sounds like they're messing with my car. So I actually walk
Oh,
quickly back, and it turns out it was one of the neighbors on like his tractor moving some stuff. So I'm like, okay, my car's fine. Walk back towards in a little bit, and people are at the gate. I hear him get out of their Jeep Wrangler bugling. So I'm like, you're an idiot, but I'm gonna make you get exercise. So, dude, I rip a fat bugle, and they bugle back immediately. So I'm just playing with them. Well, then I hear another bugle. I'm like, that was not them. So I keep walking away from the gate, and I keep hearing this bugle. So every time I hear the bugle, I copy it the best I can. I think it was perfect, but we both know it's probably like mediocre. I turn the
it's no
corner,
elk. Don't sound like elk.
750 yards away, there's a bull plain as day, right where I walked down the clear cut the night before. Like exactly where I walked down, within 50 yards. I'm like, ooh, binoculars up. I see him bugle. He's just quiet. Rosies are quiet. They don't seem to have the vocal cords that the Rockies do.
They don't
So
need to.
that's true. So,
The
anyways,
noise you would have to go for
Dude,
anyway.
I'm like, game on. All I could see was a frame because it was still a little bit foggy. So I get closer. I'm like 627. I'm like, ooh, I think that's a 4x4, maybe a 5x5. So my game plan was they're right on the border of this neighboring property where I don't have permission, but it looks like they're feeding up where if they cross the road, I can ambush them at this road. So I'm just like, I'm gonna move. So I bugle to keep him like staying where he's at, looking for me, and then I go silent. 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less. I am 100 and no, 210 yards away. I'm like, sweet. They're feeding up. They're in this little gully. This bull's in this thick stuff. These cows are right on the trees, but they're kind of back and forth. So now I take my boots off because I'm walking on a gravel road and I'm running as fast as I can on a gravel road barefoot, which isn't easy. 169 yards away, the bull's looking at me and he's doesn't like what he sees, but he doesn't buck.
Oh.
So him and the cows take off into the neighboring property. I run, I book it as fast as I can to this little knob where I'm 60 yards away from where they went in. I'm like, easy shot. And I start just making elk sounds. So the first thing I do is I do some cow calls and then I do a chuckle and then I do a loud bugle. And it sounded like the bull came back, but he didn't come back to where I could see him. He just moved back close. I think because he could see out where the elk were supposed to be. He didn't see any elk, so he didn't buy it.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
that was Sunday morning. That was the end of my season. The only legal bull I saw, I was 169 yards away before they spooked. Rifle would have been done. Um, and
he
that was
wouldn't have
that.
been there though.
What's that?
He said he wouldn't have been there
He wouldn't have
though.
been there. Yeah. So the only thing that's a bummer is if I
Yeah.
would have gone back to check on my car, I might have been able to get ahead of them. And if they would have fed up to that road, I might have got a shot. But oh well, that's the way it goes. I'll tell you what though, I've never had a bull bugle back to me ever. So that was cool.
That's
I
a huge
bugling, he
success.
was chuckling, he was doing all the things. He wasn't rounding up the cows. He was just being vocal with me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the end of my season. I don't think I'm gonna get out this weekend. What do you think I should have done differently, man?
Well, I think you got your priorities straight, first of all.
Well, thanks.
Uh, I also think that that's not a piece of advice, but it seems like maybe that bull was ready for the rut and those cows were not yet.
It might not
Otherwise,
have been. You could be right.
I think he was moving in a little early just based on his schedule and not hers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was trying to get her to be in heat and she was just
Yeah.
taking her time.
We've all been there.
All been there. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, hunting rosies is hard, but one thing I know is like I heard Jason Phelps on a podcast. He's saying, "Oh yeah, I see herds of 30 elk." I'm like, "Where are you hunting, dude?" Because I've never seen more than 15 rosies, even on like a farm field. I mean, I've been to Jewel Meadow. I went there to like see what it was about, and I've seen like 70 elk. but that's an elk refuge.
Right.
I've never seen huntable elk where he's like, oh yeah, I've seen like 30 to 50 head of elk. I'm like, where are you at? I want to go there. I just want to see it.
I'm surprised that he said that, and he's talking about Rosie's.
Yeah, because he's in Western Washington.
Man, I mean, the only way you'd be able to see that many elk at once is if it was a
A clear cut.
60, 40 plus acre clear cut, because
Yeah,
anywhere else you wouldn't be able to see that many unless it was
yeah,
like a farmer's field and you had permission or whatever.
yeah. So,
Man,
anyways, for me, I had my best Oregon elk season ever.
yeah,
It's
congrats, man. That I mean you're
these
getting
roses are
closer
tough.
every time.
Yeah, it was cool. I always want to get one, but I was full draw on what turned out to be a spike. I saw more elk than ever. I saw the biggest elk I've ever seen in archery season in Oregon. I had a chance. I was definitely in the ballpark. I just wasn't up to bat yet. You know what I mean? I was in the batter's box. I was ready to get my chance to step up and just didn't get that chance. So, a lot of fun. I don't know. If I move away, I might come back and do a rosy hunt with you, but I will say hunting more open country is a little easier in my experience.
It's also flatter and
Yeah.
drier.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is it seems like in my limited experience that the best time to get a big one is early
That's kind of
because
what I
they
think too.
that's I don't see any reason why that would not be true. Maybe my opinion will change as I get older and have more experience, but they are kind of like more in tune with the cows.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Gunner was telling
they're
me
going to be
because,
hard horned and by themselves until they think and I they know the season, man. It's the only way I can, excuse me, the only way I can explain it.
yeah, a couple things I want to talk about and get your opinion on. So, like with deer, and blacktails are really sensitive deer as far as like to human presence, but mule deer, they'll let you watch them. They'll watch you, right? Whitetail deer are 50-50. I've seen both. I've seen bucks that if you keep driving your car, they don't care. And then as soon as you slow down to stop, they run. And then I've seen bucks that walk in front of a car and almost get hit and not in the rut. Blacktails I find are a little sensitive to human pressure, but elk just seem really sensitive to human pressure. I saw over a dozen elk, and any elk that saw me was a little nervous, and they didn't seem comfortable with human watching them. What are your thoughts on that? I just think that elk are more sensitive to human presence and pressure than deer are.
My take on that is that it depends on how many elk you see. So if you see 20 elk, they're less concerned than if you see two because they're more so reliant on the herd
Hmm,
than deer. So I think that that has
interesting.
something to do with it. It seems like most of the elk you saw were in small groups or
Yeah.
alone. And as far as the comparison to mule deer and whitetail, I can't really speak to that because I don't know. I haven't hunted them, but I do know that humans and whitetail exist more more together than any other kind of deer ever. So
Yeah,
that
right.
would explain that
Two-thirds
to
of the
me.
United States.
Yeah, yeah. So that explains that. I don't really understand the mule deer thing. I have heard, and obviously blacktail and mule deer they can breed. I mean they're the same thing besides basically a longitude line, or in
Yeah.
California I-5. But I've always heard like from old guys and even guys our age that they always stop. They'll spook and then you can get them to stop
Oh, it's
every
easy.
time.
It's
It's just
easy.
like a weird sense of curiosity, or I don't know what it is. I don't know if whitetail do that, but
Whitetail
you can
don't. Whitetail
always
run,
get
and
a deer to stop.
I think it's the way that mule deer move. So blacktails run, right? Whitetails run, elk run. Mule deer hop. I think it's called
Stop.
spotting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll do 3 to 5 quick bounds and then they stop and then they look. And I think that's part of the difference too. But just what I've
Okay.
noticed with the three different kind of deer that I've hunted and been around versus any elk, elk are just more sensitive to human presence in my experience. And then the
Hmm.
other thing I noticed is they're sign and old growth. Elk live there, but I think they live there when it's not hunting season. Elk know when it's hunting season.
Yeah.
And I think at least these rosies, when it's hunting season, they want the thicker trees because humans don't go there. And that's just my theory. I'm always trying to figure them out, right? But that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, and then we'll jump off here. I've got dinner to
Man,
make for Bridget and the kiddo.
I think that especially where you and I hunt for Roosevelt's, they're most like they're like where they are at any time of year is most heavily influenced by logging operations, and to the point where they'll be like, and this is true for deer on the coast too, they'll be attracted to operations
Hmm.
because they'll tear up tubers and pull down green stuff that was previously too high for them to grab, and they'll be eaten off slash piles. And then they know that in what is it, in basically 6 months, that's going to be like a carpet of green grass in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And so you could have scouted all June, July, August. You're like, man, this herd is here. I know they're here. And then they clear cut something at the end of August. Now all of a sudden, well, where'd the elk go?
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
they're aware, they know the landscape. And I do think that they understand like what the sound of equipment does. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yeah, they know. It's almost like a dinner bell, right? It's just like
Right.
a long-term dinner bell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. But even immediately, I mean, they can eat leaves and
That's
needles and
true.
stuff, and they don't browse as much as deer. They're more of a grazer, but still, there's like, tubers and all kinds of stuff that just gets churned up when stuff is falling and crashing down.
Yeah. Well, thanks for jumping on here with me and doing this recap with me. I enjoyed your interjections so I could tell a more complete story. And stinks I didn't get one, but this is my best season yet. And for me, my goals of success were I wanted to see more elk than ever, which is easy. The number was two. And I wanted to be within archery range of elk. And I did
Yeah,
that multiple times. So I'm happy. If your goal is to fill tag every year and you're just starting out, I'm sorry, you need to set different goals. Unless you're hunting private all the time or guided, you're going to need to set different goals. Otherwise, you're going to hate hunting and you're going to quit. So
yeah,
those are my goals. I felt they were realistic after my previous 2 years. And the only way I could be happier is if I would have shot one, really.
right.
So
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is get closer.
yeah, that's exactly it. All right. Well, thanks, Aidan, for jumping on. Appreciate you taking the time to help me get this story out there. I'm gonna be talking to you later, trying to pressure you to at least do some doe hunting. I know you've got that doe tag. And for those of you that have archery elk tags and you're going out, good luck. If you've got a rifle elk season coming up, good luck with that. And we'll catch you on the next podcast. So thanks everybody for listening.